Welcome, everybody. This is Sunday Live. Take a seat, everyone. Take a seat and enjoy your time today. Sunday Live, Mark DeJesus here in the house, your brother from another mother, bringing you insights for your healing and freedom journey. It's getting warm outside, at least where we live. So I'm reflecting that in my shirt, and so therefore unveiling the season of Hawaiian shirts. So we'll be doing a lot of that during this time. Do me a favor, click that like and subscribe button. Go over to markdejesus.com. Wherever you are, help support by just sharing if this is a blessing, whether you're on YouTube, on Rumble, or over there on Facebook as well. We're streaming on all three platforms. But go over to our website, markdejesus.com, where you'll find out all kinds of information about what we're about. And the topics page, which is a great resource, a fantastic resource. In fact, if you're new to the channel and new to the materials, you can go over to a topic that's called Heart Healing and Freedom. So if you go to that page and see there at the top, it says there are topics, and then you click on that, and then scroll down to where you see Heart Healing and Freedom. This is where I recommend people start, is right where it says Start Here. And I get a number of questions that come in. In fact, I just took care of a bunch of questions that came in with just that right there. And anyway, looking forward to what we're going to get into today, and super excited about the latest book on the subject of relationship OCD. It is out. It is available. Get a copy of this. Get it for yourself. Get it for a loved one. I want to break through this myth and helping believers to break through these distortions that come about when it comes to romance and marriage, because marriage is a beautiful thing. But when you battle with obsessiveness and compulsivity and anxiousness regarding commitment, then a whole lot of distortions get in the way to seek to steal the beauty of what we can learn when it comes to walking the journey of experiencing love, learning to be loved, and to love. So get a copy of that. I have more that I'll have to share on that in a few moments. Melissa and I are going to share some things, and there'll be ongoing content that we'll be giving to talk about that. I'll be doing some live broadcasts coming up. And just so you know, those of you that have submitted questions, there's a number of them that have gone into the category of ROCD, Relationship OCD. I plan on, Lord willing, the creek don't rise, doing a live this week to address those questions. I have a couple of them in tonight's batch, but I'm going to shoot to have another broadcast on that. And I have a topic of trauma that I will be covering a Q&A on as well too. And also there's a lot of questions that are sexually related, especially in the context of marriage. So I want to talk about that, and feel free to send in questions. So again, it's a Lord willing, the creek don't rise. I'm not sure when that one will be, but keep that in mind. And a lot more to share about the book, because many of you are getting a copy of it, and we greatly appreciate that, and so much more to share on that. But before I do, I want to bring on the woman who's made so much of this possible in my life. I would not be where I am today without her. She's the love of my life, and she's all that I cling to, and she...
You mean more than this world to me.
And that's not codependency talking, everyone. Melissa DeJesus is in the house.
Hi, babe. Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Welcome.
It's like a dark theme today.
Yeah, it is.
A little bit.
It's a bit of a dark theme.
Yeah. We need to get you tanned up a little bit too.
Well, my skin tends to go more red, and yours more goes...
That's true.
When you contrast...
You need a tan with a Hawaiian shirt, though.
I got a little bit of color.
A little bit. We were outside today. You guys don't need to know. Whatever. We always have something going on, but we have to have our deck painted because it's like peeling anyway.
Yep.
We're trying to scrape it.
Yep.
And for those of you that are like pimple popper people, if you can, I'm a pimple popper person. I love to watch that stuff. So I like to pick and peel. And like if Mark gets a sunburn, I want to peel it. Mm-hmm. So I can't help myself. If I walk up the deck and there's a little piece of the paint peeling, I have to peel it. Mm-hmm. And then I'm there for a half an hour. So then we got the scraper going. So then Mark got in on it, and So anyway, we're prepping the deck to be painted.
It's a long story.
It's so fun.
It's a long story.
It's
and how
tedious,
we and
and
how
I
we
love
got
it.
there. But if you know the DeJesus family, there's always a project.
Always a project. And we're like, you know what? We're going to relax. Mark got his book out. Nope. No.
There's always something happening. Yes, if the fork took a different turn, you may have gone the route of becoming an esthetician. Is that the right word?
Yes, I was. And then I met you. I was actually signed up for school.
Yeah,
And our life took a turn. So.
Yeah, it did. Do you have any regrets?
None. Absolutely none.
None. Zero. It was
Anyway.
It's wonderful to be able to finally get this book out there.
It is.
Before we get into talking about that, I do want to let people know the audiobook should be out any day. So
Yes, people are asking.
I'll do my best to let you know. Normally it gets approved sooner than it has. It's been in the process of being in the it'll be released on Audible for those of you that know. And normally within a few days it's live. But now they're saying it could take anywhere up to 10 days. I'm like, that's new. So
I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but they have to do all these verification checks and all this stuff and whatever. So that'll be I would say sometime this week. I would say by the latest Friday of this week. By the latest.
By the latest. Let's shoot for Wednesday.
Are you saying while Friday being too long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
I agree. Well, it'd be 10 days from sometime last week when it was all when it was all uploaded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but Kindle and paperback and hardcover is available. And it is, from what I understand, last we checked, and we checked just before we went on, it is showing its number one in marriage and dating, or dating and marriage.
Dating and relationships. And counseling. Christian.
It is number one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So exciting, babe.
Fantastic. It really is. So get a copy of that today. And then at some point in the journey, I will be doing some further deeper teaching and deeper work with people that are part of the Healing and Freedom community. So just let you guys all know that. It's a no pressure kind of thing, but let you know that's where I do some deeper investment in people. And a lot of it is done through our weekly Q&As that we have that you're able to join in, or if you're not able to join in, you can listen to the recording. There's some forum interaction, as well as a lot of course content that's laid out for the purpose of being able to work through strategically some of the areas of mental health. Of course, we have the OCD healing journey that is there. And so at some point, I'll do some further work in this area of topic. And we certainly have a lot we could share about this subject, couldn't we?
We do.
But before we get into that, we had a fun day yesterday.
We did.
Yeah, we got to see John Crist.
First of all, it was pouring torrential rain.
Yes.
We went, my niece had her junior high prom. So we went and saw her, took some pictures.
Yep.
So cute.
Yep.
Poor things, though. Pouring rain, all the girls trying to do their thing, and it's pouring rain. But anyways, got to see her. She looked absolutely stunningly beautiful.
She did.
So then we left there. Oops, hit my mic. Left there, and then we went to go see John Crist. And we made it.
Yeah, and we decided to take Abby, and then we said, you know what? Let's give it a try, and let's take Max and see.
Yeah, I bought 4 tickets just in case last year. Actually, totally forgot. I thought we only had 3. I totally forgot. Bought 4, thinking, okay, well, we'll see if he wants to go.
Yep.
So, no lie, yesterday morning I go, totally forgot I got 4 tickets. And let's see if Max wants to go.
So I had
spent some time talking with him.
I had a long talk with him about it, and his mind was like trying to,
because he gets nervous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what was funny was I go, all right, Max, let's get to your bottom line fear. What are you afraid? And he cracked me up because he goes, I'm afraid I'm going to be bored.
Yeah. So in his head, he's like, should I bring my phone, or should I bring any like drawing pads? We're like, no. And especially too, so we did the whole, little VIP thing. So we were in the second row. So we're right there in front of him.
Yep.
And you never know with Max, right? You're like, okay, sometimes he could say something, whatever. Anyway, John was hilarious. So we did the whole meet and greet thing. So Max is all nervous,
Yep.
you know. So we go up to meet him. And let me tell you something. John was, wait, before I say that, as we're nearing towards the end of the set, Max is yawning. And I'm like, we are in the second row.
Yeah, you can't be doing that,
No
bro.
comedian wants to look down and see anyone yawning.
Yeah.
So Max is trying to hide his yawn, and he's not hiding it well, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm like, bro, let's try not to yawn. Well, then he slings down and he kind of slouches down in his chair, and he's going to put his head on me. And I'm like, Max,
No.
yeah. Bro, you're not going to look like you're tired in the second row. Okay.
They'll a lot of times too, they'll call it out too, because
Yes.
they'll start roasting
That's-
with somebody.
That's what I was. Okay. So anyway, so we wait in line. They take you back. They do the thing. And let me tell you something.
It was great how he took extra time to focus on Max and asked him if he got the
Yes.
jokes.
He did ask him.
and then
Yeah.
he said, "Hey, why don't I just take a picture of me and him?"
He was so kind.
That meant a lot to us as
I
parents.
wanted to start bawling my eyes out. Anyway, yeah. So it was great. And if you have a chance to see him, go see him.
And Abby was she was laughing the whole time. She was loving it. It was
Yeah.
It was fun as a family. But it was a lot of rain.
Right. But it worked out good.
Yeah.
It worked out really good.
Had a great time. So, in bringing out this book, I wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you about this because
yes, sir.
if I was to look back, and I wrote this in the book, when you get a copy, you'll be able to see it, that when you understand how obsessions, compulsions, perfectionism, how these things operate and how they can get into how people choose relationship. There's two things I see looking back. One is I find obsessiveness in a lot of our modern culture, that in just the way people talk and the way people assess themselves and the way people approach Christianity, how they approach their faith. And then when it comes to the person you're going to marry, there's this giant ominous like weight that's put on it. You know, don't make the wrong decision. So in addition to that, I feel like looking back, I have faces that come to mind of many people in my church work. I remember in the church I worked at in Connecticut, we had, as many churches do, they had a singles ministry, right? And many people, it was a variety of ages, but it was usually like those that were getting a bit older. And reflecting back in my conversations and interactions, because I didn't recognize how OCD worked. You have to realize people, it wasn't told, very rarely was it ever even told to me that I was obsessive compulsive. And so to look back, I'm like, wow, all those conversations, they were showing all the signs of it. So I think, in my opinion, those of you that are watching this, you may or may not struggle with this theme in your journey. However, I guarantee you there's a handful of people you know that do, that are either married, engaged, or already married, that have this influence.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are not aware of how much it impacts their sense of how they relate to love, how they relate to the other person. So it's,
yeah. Can you do me a favor?
yeah.
So your dad kind of like.
Oh, you want me to tell that story?
Can you please tell the story? I think people would love this story. So Mark's dad was giving Mark advice about all this. Didn't know about OCD or anything.
Hi, Dad.
Yep. If he's watching, I think that this story fits appropriately.
So I have a lot of moments where I seek for dad advice, and there's a lot of patterns in this that were in my life for some time. And when you think about it, I will admit there are like cringe memories that you work through, you know, because there's a lot of cycles that you get in: anxiousness, spinning, obsessiveness, kind of non-committal, struggling to land, all that kind of stuff. And so my parents didn't really know what to say a whole lot. There were times where they're like, you know, you need deliverance, you know. There was, and understandable. It's like, it just seemed so strange the way I was relating to the subject, because it seemed like I could relate to other subjects a little bit more reasonably, but this one would fire off so much disturbance. So I remember in the midst of it, you know, you just talk to whoever you can. And I remember talking to him, and there was a guy in our church, God bless his heart. I'm sure he's still around. I think he's still alive.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, you and I have been married 20 years, about next year.
20
and
years.
He was already kind of old. I think I went to the singles ministry when I came back to church. I want to say maybe once. And then I was like, I'm out because no. Mm-mm. These people are lifers. They are lifers.
I won't say what I used to say.
Okay.
It wasn't nice. But it's funny because I would make jokes about them, but then I had,
So
I had the
anyway,
same issues. Okay, so I go to him, Dad,
Yes.
I'm spinning. I got this, I was in one of those many seasons of up and down, and like, what do I do? And is this the fish one, or is this?
this is the fish story, and I need you to tell it, please.
Yeah. So so I'm telling him what I'm struggling with, and he's in the backyard. So I kind of went over to him. I'm like, Dad, so I'm struggling, and he's like, Mark.
Wait, there was a man.
Well,
His name-
that was
okay,
the
his
that was
name
the
is-
second
okay.
part. The guy that was in there was a guy in the singles ministry. His name was Dick, and he was single his whole life, and part of the singles ministry.
Because I'm
And
saying he was very old when I came back to church. You and I had not been dating yet, and he was already old. So I'm just saying. Go ahead.
right, well, old is relative because
You're right.
because we're now the age of all those people on TV we thought were old.
Right.
So
that's true.
that's a whole nother
Okay.
subject.
Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
So he says to me, Mark, do like a fish. I'm like, what? He said, do like a fish. He puts his hand over his head and he starts running around the yard. He's like, do like a fish, going to the hook and can't find the hook. And you going from this hook to that hook. Do like a fish, Mark. You're like a fish. I'm like, and I'm in a.
It's the best story.
I did not know what to expect, but that was his counseling feedback. Do like a fish. Do like a fish, and he had to put the fin up too, and he had to impersonate because many times when he talks about something, he has to physically, viscerally describe
Yes.
whatever it is
Yup.
that he's talking about, and he's like, Mark, you gonna be like Dick. You're gonna be like Dick. You wanna be like Dick.
As he's doing the fish.
You're gonna be like a fish. This is me trying to
That was your parental advice.
trying to navigate.
Figure out how to eventually get married and find love.
Yes.
Is don't be like Dick. Don't be like him.
And don't be a fish.
Don't be a fish.
I still to this day, I'm not sure what the fish was doing. Was the fish, because if a fish goes to a hook, it's going to get hooked on.
Correct. So maybe the analogy didn't work. And then in his mind, he went, I know what I can do. I can use the single man from church.
Yeah, so feel free to write to me and tell me the advice that you were given.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
That story never gets old. Yep.
you're going to be like a fish.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the accent too.
Yes.
By the way, I'm not making this up.
Yep.
Now, sometimes it slides into a little bit of Cuban. You're gonna be like a fish. It wasn't that far, but you're gonna be like a fish.
Oh my gosh.
You do like that. I feel like it's like ripping a chainsaw.
Right.
Like a fish. Like a fish.
That is the best.
Because when you're obsessive,
Oh my goodness.
when you're obsessive compulsive, and it runs in my family, runs in a lot of families, because it does kind of the ways of it do get passed down. People could argue about whether it's in the genetics or not. It is shown that it seems the traits seem to pass down, and you feel crazy when you're in this.
Yes. Lori Sullivan knows who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Lori, you know what we're talking about, Lori, okay?
Hi, Lori.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Lori knew me in
Yes,
those
she
in
did.
those days.
She did.
She worked with me on staff at the church there.
Yep.
So she knows she's got an inside scoop. Thank you for being here, Lori, because you can verify I'm not making this stuff up.
She said, I do.
You know how a lot of people, on YouTube or on TV, they have this like kind of platform and story and journey, and then you're like, yeah, they were making it all up, they were grifting, you know what I mean? And it's like sometimes when you tell these stories, you're like, I'm telling you I'm telling you the truth. Chew like a fish. Mark. Well, that's what he says too. Because my mom's name is Barbara.
Oh, we just were going over this with the kids the other night at dinner.
My mom's name is Barbara, but he calls her Barb. But when he says our names, we don't know who he's calling because it comes out Barb. And you don't know if it's Barb or Mark.
Please do though when you ask who it is.
Because he go Barb, and I would go, oh, he's calling Mom. So he goes, and he'd come over, Barb, and then he busts in my room. Mark, I go, Dad, I thought you were calling Mom. I said Mark, as though I was the problem. Then it would happen the other way, where he'd be like Barb, and I would come in the room. And he like, I said, Barb, like I was the one who had the issue. It was like, Barb. you don't know.
We were going over this at dinner, no lie.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So it's like, my mom and I both share the same thing, that we have hearing loss, and she has
So that doesn't help.
pretty significant hearing loss. So then she marries a Puerto Rican where they're always yelling.
And marbly.
They're just always yelling. Everything's yelling. It could be something very nice, but it's always yelling. So I often walked into the room like, why are you guys arguing? We're not arguing. we're just talking. and all the Puerto Ricans, Mexicans and Central Americans, they're not as loud. But there's something about Puerto Ricans, they talk loud and fast. Even the Spanish is like, bruh, and it's like, you don't even have, if you're learning Spanish, you don't have time to pick apart words and
like,
translate.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is no like, oye, yo soy do.
Right. No.
Gotta
keep up. You got to keep up. But if you can't hang, step off the conversation.
It's And it's like, that's how it sounded in my brain too. It was like, and then somebody else, see?
So the moral of the story is, don't be like Dick. That's it.
I just don't know.
Everybody loves that, by the way.
So it's a mixture. I could laugh about it later.
Yeah.
But I didn't laugh about it until like maybe a year later, because at the time I was just so lost in.
Right. You were like, no, tell me the thing. What do I got to do? How do I fix this?
Yeah.
Right.
There's such a high level of, I guess you could call it neuroticism, where you're just highly consumed by the topic that you're thinking about.
Right.
And trying to fix it. So the reason I picked this topic too was because this was my introduction to recognizing I got mad issues and I need help. This not only the way that OCD happened, and at the time I didn't know, it would take a long time for me to even know. I pursued it from a standpoint of relating to fear and heart healing, which I'm very grateful for. But it took me a while to recognize how this impacted me. And then over the years and now decades, I'm seeing so many people that are not knowing what they're struggling with. And it feels so odd, and they're getting like Jew-fish kind of advice,
right? Back
and well-meaning Christians and people just like, get the demon out, or just pray more, or just, you know.
You and I were talking too, and I feel like that a lot of people who have this don't know they even have it.
No.
Like that gentleman did not know that he had that. And quite a few other people. And Lori, I think you know who I'm talking about in that group. Like they did not know they probably struggled with this. And it was like, well, I'm just waiting on the Lord.
Yep.
And then would date somebody briefly, break up.
Yep. Because the Lord
had the reputation that the Lord told them.
Yep. The Lord didn't give me peace. And that's where it hits us in the church. We associate these strong feelings, these ups and downs with God.
Yeah.
And we attach an interpretation to it, then live by it. And in this case, it's not the person God has for me, not the person, God has for me.
Right.
So yeah. And I think that we're good in, and I'm just thinking out loud, but I think that in the non-believing secular world, I wonder if you could pick up on it a little bit better because the anxiousness doesn't have a God label
Well,
put
you're
on
not
it.
spiritualizing it. Right.
Right. In the church, and of course, we're trying to walk in God's ways. We want to follow God's word, but there's these distorted. It could be called immature. It could be called goofy. Sometimes just unhelpful, unfruitful kind of ways that we associate with God, and we put a God label on it in our feelings and our emotions. It gives a sense of jurisdiction to it, of like God's doing this, and
I just have to wait on him.
yeah, so it becomes a avoidance kind of thing to cover it over, and it wasn't until people started calling my bluff that then I had a cue. Maybe I need to think about this a bit, because I would say that I had like a whole script that would go. Well, the Lord hasn't, which I talk about in the book. I used on you. And you I call it that, super intervention, not intervention. That's another term.
Right.
Well, you could call it that.
That's true.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna call it.
Well, what's funny is, and you did not put this in the book, but we've talked about this. There was a woman in the church that said to me, "Oh, honey, he's going to break up with you."
Yeah.
They knew that you would not stay.
That I struggled. Yeah.
Yeah, but no one knew what that was, and thank goodness I was partially naive to it too when. And I had a slight
because on your end,
I had a slight no, this kid ain't going to get one over on me kind of thing. I didn't know what I was getting into either. I didn't really know.
Explain what you mean by that. He's not going to get one up on me.
Well, I had part of me coming from my history of hurt with men. So when that statement was made to me, I was like, oh, well, no, because then I'll break up with him first. That's not, even if we started dating. No, I had a a little bit of a, I wouldn't say an arrogance, but like, no, that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, self-protection.
Yes,
Yeah.
massive self-protection. But, I think that came down for me very quickly. But I want to ask you a question. I don't know how much time you want to spend on this, but because you don't go into great detail of even, my side of looking at it too, coming into it.
Right.
But there's a part that I think would help people too in when you and I are going on like our first couple dates and you're in a process of where you're like, you need healing. You didn't know back then that it was OCD.
Right.
You didn't know.
I just knew I needed help. I needed healing. I needed renewal. Those were kind of the terms I used back then.
Yeah. So you and I go on, it's in the book, go on that awesome walk, and we go on really our first official date. So there was, when it comes with OCD and these things, there can be very high highs and then low lows. Like you have euphoric emotions, and then the next day it's crash. So what was that like for you in the beginning? I think that would help people, just even for them. They're like, is this a book that I should read or whatever? Like what that was, so that people can relate to it. In you and I, you're in this pattern. You're going after healing, your heart healing, and back then, it was like we're healing in the Father's love and heart healing and all this stuff, and you didn't know the deeper part of this.
Yeah.
So you and I go on our first couple dates, and then what happens to you?
So in meeting you, and as our connection started to grow, that date that you're talking about, where I invited you to
The graduation.
a graduation that I was just saying a prayer at, and I don't even know that they still do that these days, but they'd have prayer. It was a school in Hartford, that high school. They were having a graduation, and there was just a very lovely lady who was the vice principal there. She said, I want you to pray. Like, fine. So you go and sit in the whole ceremony, and I just threw it at you. Do you want to come?
Did?
Do you want to just come and sit in the audience and and you jumped right into joining me, being there, and so we had a great time. Went out to eat, went for a walk that night, and all this. if I could back up for just a second, because in the OCD Healing Journey book, I talk about, in the first chapter, I talk about a walk that I'm taking in snow in my apartment. That was years before, and it was at a point I had done the compulsive thing, broken up, done that kind of thing. And it was at that point I started to realize, oh, this is not solving it. So that sense of like desperation, that sense of like, I need help.
Yep.
But there were options. Like I went to a counselor, and it was, I talk a little bit about that in some of my materials and stuff like that, what that was like and what the journey was like for that. So leading up until meeting you, I was still though convinced, like, all right, I was walking through some heart healing, but in this area, I was like, I'm good. I just haven't met the right person yet. I was still in that kind of hypnosis, if you could call it that, And that night, there's a bunch of scenarios around it, but to summarize it very quickly, it was great. It was a wonderful time. And what was special about it was I let go. Right. And I just let myself be with you and talk with you. And which has been the power of our relationship ever since, is our ability to talk with one another.
Yep.
And your ability to like listen, pay attention, those kind of things. I'm so grateful to who you are in the midst of this. But to answer your question, the next morning, I woke up with that ferocious anxiety up to my neck.
Like, I got to tell her we can't do this. We can't date.
Yeah. And so all those things rose up. So I looked in the mirror and I took a sober look at myself and I go, all right, dude, you got some work to do. And I reached out to some people, started doing some deeper work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I got to make a decision.
Yeah.
I gotta start dealing with this stuff.
Yeah.
Or else I'm gonna be like a fish. But I had to realize that this is not about the person, the other person, and their qualities and this and that. This is a rational thing. But the thing is, we have an allegiance to our perceptions, don't we? And OCDers are we're some of the most stubborn people on the planet, in the sense of like our perceptions of how we deal with things.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, whether it's salvation, your walk with God, living right, you defend them. Well, Mark, I could marry the wrong person. So they take certain things, amplify it, which I had. And I had if you name it, commitment issues, anxiety issues, I had all that. But those terms become symptomatic things you chase that aren't necessarily getting to the heart of how an obsessive-compulsive thinks. Because otherwise you start chasing those subjects.
Right.
And so even with people that were helping me, I was doing a lot of symptom chasing. And some of them were even like, I don't know how to help you, in the sense of like, I've done what I can.
Right.
And so I took that as like, all right, I just got to keep God.
Yeah.
I had a heart that said, God, you have things for me to learn. I got to go find it. And so I took that into the next steps of our relationship. And you watched me go through those ups and downs.
Yep.
And I think that we've talked about this in some of our broadcasts. You tell me your thoughts. I think you carry a very powerful, I guess balance is the best word I can think of, but it's not the best word. A powerful combination of very compassionate grace over the subject, but also a very firm sense of boundary kind of reactions. Where you were, I remember early on, I'm like, I got to have a talk with you. And I remember sharing with you, this is what goes on in my head. And some of that was my like reassurance seeking, but sometimes just not knowing what to do. And you were very gracious and you're like, I get it. I see it, but I see you working on it. I see God's, working your life and so forth.
Yep.
But then there were other times where you're like, okay.
I had to say, okay, dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because
the panic attack time is probably the best example of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, I'm on the floor.
You're on the floor. It was very dramatic. And I was like, okay. I wasn't like, nope, I'm not going to baby you.
Right.
Nope.
And that's
time to grow up, dude.
And that's yeah. And that's where I had to, and this is a very important thing for men.
Yeah.
Is I had to go, all right, I need to dig deep in what it means to be a man. Like I don't,
Yep.
right now, I haven't been given it.
Yeah.
And that's not an excuse. That's just a recognition to now go, see, if you say I wasn't given it, many people go, well, I wasn't given it. And they stop there. Right? Like how many parents, when there's a family discussion, they're like, well, I wasn't taught how to love.
Yep.
Okay. And they end it there. I had to say, I got to learn. I got to learn what it means in the midst of the confusion to rise up and go, doggone it, I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
Right? And then there were days where I'm like, all right, I need to learn how to be loved by God. Right? And so that's been the journey of knowing how to stand with the sword, but also standing in that love, and those two. And it's not, I don't like using the word balance because it's like we're like, oh, like what rule do I follow right now? It's love and power working together, like love and faith working together. Like I got to step up and I got to fight this thing.
Yeah.
And it was a deep wrestling match.
Yeah. And I think that's where too, so much of what you even do now in counseling people's and working with people is not just, helping them work through areas of their heart and healing, but there's a call to decision.
Yes.
That we really need people to get to of like, even if it's just the decision of, okay, nope, I can't live like this anymore. I need to work on this.
Yes.
That call to decision that is one that, so even in my history of not really struggling with what you did, but I was terrified of marrying someone that I really didn't respect, that I would eventually divorce. Like divorce was my, I don't want to marry someone that looks like I'm going to divorce them. That's how like most of the people I dated, I was like, yeah, we're going to get a divorce in 10 years. This is not, nope. Even in like, oh no, this could be great. No, we're going to get a divorce. So I was terrified.
Yeah.
So in meeting you, there was a shift for me and making a decision for me of, no, I actually really respect this guy and I could see this going the distance, and changes that I had to be called to make.
And there were numerous times where I would be exercising who I am in communication and who I am as a man, where you could have made the decision to be like, I'm not dealing with this.
Right. Right.
But there was something about both of us where we both had to respond to that decision. And because when you have OCD influences, your emotions fuss with you over your decisions. So you wait for the emotions to settle right and then make a decision. And it creates a very problematic pattern that takes time to undo. Because then when you make a decision and your feelings don't line up, you're like, oh my goodness, something's wrong. And you're examining that. And now you become double-minded, unstable in all your ways, like like James talks about. He's so right on. You have those multiple minds, and for the OCDer, it's multiple mindsets. It's not just two. It's like triple. It's like quadruple, because you got the doubt, you got the ups and the downs, and then you're like, and the anxiety, and you're swirling in that. And I found that a very big key. It's one of the chapters in the book. Is the power of decision and the power to lead your heart. There's a lot of differing opinions in Christianity about your heart. There's those in the camp that like, your heart is desperately wicked, comes out of Jeremiah. And it's like, don't listen to anything kind of thing, right? Approach. It's pretty extreme to it. Takes a bit out of context biblically. And then there's those who are like, you have a new heart, right? Out of Ezekiel. And even Jesus' call of I've called them that you might have life. Of course, life flows through the heart. And one of the ways that I help people look at that whole, like, look at your heart is you have to be somebody who leads your heart. And because there are seasons of our life where our heart is filled with heaviness or anxiousness or doubt, and you're going through these seasons. If we let those influences drive us, we're now going to be easily tossed by the wind. I just feel that this is a key to mental health.
Yep.
I really do. And it's been a game-changing mindset, because it guides me to this day that I'm not driven by the ups and downs, because I still have ups and downs, right? It doesn't, like working this journey doesn't like make you just have amazing days, because life is not like that.
We're not walking around the house holding hands and skipping.
Wait, we're not? Yeah, but it's great. But it's great because there's ups, there's downs, but you make powerful decisions in it, and you learn where the downs are actually treasured moments. So like in our journey, some of our down moments have been places we've bonded.
Absolutely.
Right? That have been a part of our bond to this day. Right?
Being broke and looking at each other and going, okay,
yeah.
if we had to be homeless, I would live under a bridge with you. That's
Right.
how I feel.
Right.
You and I together have what it takes to survive.
Yeah. And
we got this.
You would clean and organize under the bridge.
I would.
And
you would do everything you could to collect cans to make sure we had it.
And I'd probably find chalk.
Yeah, we've played the tape out, everybody. We have.
I'd find some chalk and write on the cement maybe a teaching outline.
Yes, you probably would.
And explain to all the other people under the bridge.
Yeah.
How we can get out of the bridge. I don't know.
As we're under the bridge. Right.
Speaking of under, I want my man to give me under the blood.
Let's do it.
And then we'll come back and greet everybody.
Okay.
It took us a while to get to that, but we'll do that in just a little bit.
Awesome.
Take a break for a second.
And I just rap back and say, under the blood, me say me under the blood. Under the blood, me say me under the blood. Jesus cover me under the blood. Under the blood, me say me under the blood. Jesus, you will cover me under the blood. In the morning when me wake up, and the blood that Jesus me take up. And when me feel like me, I go break up. Put the blood on me face just like a makeup. In the morning when me wake up, and the blood that Jesus me take up. And when me feel like me heart break up, put the blood on me face just like a makeup. Under the blood, under the blood, Jesus cover me. Jesus, you will cover me. Say under the blood. Under the blood, Jesus, you will cover me. Jump on this. Listen, Christian a fight some things with them not see. Stronghold demons and principality. My body at the temple, keep it holy, sanctified, justify, give God the glory. Fighting against three terrible enemy. The world, Satan and myself against me. One the anointing, pour it on me and make me trample the devil on it. Say, under the blood, under the blood, under the blood, Jesus cover me. Look, you want to hear it? Drum and bass, listen. Christian a fight some, play low, let them hear me.
Let them hear me.
The physical man can't fight no demon. Fasting and prayer fi build up the inner one. Well anointed convert the sinner man. Bind the demon, rip up Satan. How you pollute the land with pure corruption. A warfare time, this a revelation. Thank Father God for give me salvation. Fill me with the Holy Ghost, it is an inspiration. Say, and the blood.
We gotta take a breath on that one.
I know, I love it.
It's good. He's just rolling and rolling and rolling.
Goodness.
All right, my love, do you want to take a moment and greet the chat? Say hello to everybody.
Certainly.
I know we took a long time and intro, but we wanted to talk about the new book, celebrate that.
But we got to say hey
go
to
ahead
everybody with us.
Go ahead and say hey.
Hello to everybody on Facebook that is watching. We have someone from Kenya. Thank you for watching. Rumble, let me go over to Rumble. RRB, hello, good afternoon. JP851, they loved our story. Courtney Laws, hello, welcome. Thank you for watching on Rumble. All right, let me go over to the YouTube. Lori Livingston, hello, Lori. Banrun, hello. Abe, HS, Wenty, Allison, Dave Jenkins, what's going on? Oh, it's the happy 4th. May the 4th be with you.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. It is the 4th.
Adrian, Augustin, hello. EC in the Caribbean, hello, hello. Lindsay, Madison, hello, my dear. Renewal of the Mind. Pink Wolf Owl City, hello. MC, Kathy. Rocco Jew, hello. Hema, Myrta. Let me go down here. Jenica, hello. Emma P. Private, hello. Smiling Heidi. Lori Sullivan, we love you. Marty, let's see.
Marty.
Hello, Luke Bragan. Baganza. Hello. Rose Andreas. NC Prepper. That's the best name. I love it. Autumn. Hello. Joshua Miller. Hello, Pearl. Allison. Rashawn. Autumn. Estelle. My lovely, lovely Estelle. Hello. Let's see. Kathy. All right, I'm going to go whoop. I'm going to shoot down to the bottom. Ivy, Cody, Alamac, hello. Coastal Resellers, hello.
Hello.
Mavros, The Hornet, 79, hello. Tony, Allison, Alexandria. I may have said people's names twice. I think I got everybody, though. Let me see. I'm just going to do it. Georgette, hello. My wife thinks I'm Noah. Hello. That's a cool name. Josh, Cody, Sue Horn, hello. I think I got everybody. And if I missed you, I'm sorry I missed you. Hi, Jessica. Welcome. We're glad to have you with us.
Wow. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
It's great to do this journey with you, my love.
And you too as well, sir.
I think as we were reflecting on the book and talking, especially the past few days and stuff, of just recognizing the value of the work, but it's work of the heart.
Absolutely.
And it's a great
worth
thing.
Every minute.
Yeah.
Even when it's so hard and
Right.
like we wanted to kill each other, and you guys know marriage is not easy at times, but it's so worth it when you put the work in.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. I'm going to dive into some questions. I will be hosting a Relationship OCD Q&A this week, so keep an eye out for that if you're subscribed to the channel. And that will be coming up. But I do have a few of those questions that I'll get into, talk about it a little bit more. There's some other anxious questions and emotions questions, parenting questions. We'll see where we get today. I know we wanted to take a significant time to share with you about the book and let that be an encouragement to your journey. One note that came in, because some of you send thank yous in the question area. And if you go to markdacus.com/questions, it's there. Hi, Mark. I just wanted to reach out and say a big thank you for all the materials and teachings you share, especially around OCD and heart healing. I found your content to be so grounding, which that means a lot for you to say that, especially that grounding phrase. I appreciate that. Your calm approach helps me to settle the pressure and obsessive thoughts that get stirred in my mind. My mind overall feels less inflamed and on guard, and I'm grateful for that. About 8 months ago, I'd written in taking a break from church, and you answered my question on your channel. I just wanted you to know that stepping back has been really helpful for me in my healing journey with religious OCD. I'm sure there's been some avoidance mixed in, but overall, I've seen a lot of healing around those areas. Almost a year later, I'm thinking much more clearly, noticing healthier thought patterns, and I don't spin out the way that I used to. I'm not stuck in that all or nothing thinking as much anymore. I'm able to see the gray now. Thank you again for all you do. Your work has been a blessing to me. I really appreciate your heart, your encouragement, and your willingness to walk with people through this process that you're all too familiar with. God bless you. Well, thank you so much, sister. It means a lot. Those notes are very, very encouraging. And especially now, there's been so much going on and getting the book ready, getting it out there, working through all the glitches that come about with it. And so in the midst of that, to have that encouragement from you all is fantastic. So a question just came in today, and it is in regard to the book. And it's from a single guy who's, all right, you wrote this book, Mark. Hey, I was wondering if you'd be willing to cover some more aspects of your latest book, The Myth of the Perfect One. Wait a second. Did you read it that fast? Did you read the whole thing? I know it makes sense that if we who struggle to receive God's love would truly struggle to receive love from our spouse, which that's often very, very true. I'm currently single and am seeking the Lord in regards to dating. And that may already show signs of the perfect one God has for me that has an impact. And I'll get to that in just a second. So the journey starts in our connection and how we connect to the Lord. With that being said, could you cover some pointers for dating and what you learned over the years, and especially what you wish was covered or established in through or by the church? Well, I think that first and foremost, the church, and I don't mean this as like an indictment, but I think the church uses so much spiritualizing when it comes to getting married that we can hyper spiritualize the decision and the choice, and we put it as in a framework of the person God has for me. And it sounds nice, but it's loaded with a lot of distortions that are actually not helpful. And I think especially for the 20-somethings in today's generation, it's inflaming a lot of perfectionistic nitpickiness, overthinking kind of stuff. And so when you read the scriptures, there's instructions about how to be married, but quite often it was her. I'd like to marry her. And it was decision being made. And then from there, you take a journey and you learn to grow in love. I think that some of what you're writing here, because I'll get into some more, but some of what you said already can already get into overthinking. Like, I got to make sure I'm ready. And you're never really ready to be married. So there's a lot of people that have I got to have this to be ready. Traditionally, a lot of people like, I got to get my finances ready. And so they get it ready. When I get it. You know, parents of a daughter, you want the daughter to marry a man who's got a job and can provide. So I get that. But there can be a lot of overthinking in that. There can be a sense of like, I need to be in a good place. And a lot of that can be perfectionistically influenced of like, what does that even mean? Because you're never really ready, because the work is when you enter into the marriage covenant. That's where it really happens. And Jesus's call to discipleship and call to follow him kind of followed the same pattern, didn't it? He wouldn't lay out, so when you walk with me, here's what's going to happen. Here's what you need to get ready for. Jesus was like, just drop your nets and just follow me. Let's go. There's no like pros and cons list. There's no like, just make a decision, follow me. And then in the following, you learn to grow, because now you're in a covenant relationship with him where now you are working through your issues. And so what marriage does, it puts us in a place where it's like, okay, time to work on yourself. We've fallen into the perfect person God has for me. So then if you get married and you have problems, then there's a problem with there's a problem in God's equation, or now you're really confused, because like, what's happening here? I got problems and things I'm working through, and what's happening, God? So I think that the over preparation, the hyper spiritualizing of the person you find, because a lot of our stories have that, and you may even hear that, Melissa and I, when we talk about our relationship, because there's so much we appreciate, we're thankful to God for it. But I had to break through that thing of like, I got to get this confirmation from God, or I got to get myself prepared. I think the best advice I can give single people is be busy about helping, serving, using your time as a single person to have opportunities of ways of serving and learning and growing. Take advantage of your 20s. Don't look at 20s as prep to 30. Don't look at 20s as, or 20 as the new 30. Am I saying that right? Like all the 20s are, or 30 is the new 20s. 30 is the new 20s. Yeah. Sorry. I don't advise looking at it that way. I'll just kind of, be intentional about your 20s. Be intentional about your years, about meeting relationships and growing in relationships. And out of that, you have the best option of meeting somebody within your circle of connections. And I know people have to use online dating or whatever, and that's certainly fine. In the age that we live in, there's so many tools as far as meeting people that you could utilize. But one of my big cautions is the overthinking. That is that can sometimes be woven within like the red flag talk. I think you get to that in here. Well, let me just keep reading your question. Could you cover some pointers for dating, what you've learned over these years, especially what you wish was covered or established in, through, or by the church? Like maybe some areas you've discovered that will be wise to learn before the first date. No, I think that's overthinking. I think you just need to go on a first date. Like you just need to get to know somebody. You need to practice. You don't like get yourself all set. It's more like get into the relationship journey. So, and the analogy with me and Christ is the same way too. I went into the relationship. We are the bride of Christ, but we're going to get married, right? We're not married yet. We're in the engagement phase, right? We're getting ourselves ready, but in relationship. right? I'm not getting myself ready, and then I'm going to follow you, Jesus, right? There are many people that my pastoring days that were like that. I'm like, why don't you, give your life to Christ? They're like, well, I got some things I got to get ready before I do that, right? And many people do that in their desire to get married. It's like the overthinking and overpreparedness of it. What would research, praying? I don't know that I would spend so much time research unless it's research of you just working on yourself, working through anxiety, working through giving and receiving love. But my biggest recommendation is take advantage of opportunities, be intentional about meeting new people, find ways to serve, find ways to get out of your head and serve others. I found that I did do that, and that was helpful to me. So that I was a very big navel gazing introspector. However, I found it very beneficial that I spend a lot of my single years giving out, pouring out, and just helping people in that kind of way. So that's stuff that I would encourage. And what would be green flags for us? I think you mean red flags, or maybe the green flag is go, right? Would be the green flag. If you're asking for a green flag, green meaning go, that's another one of those. God, give me the green light. Give me the confirmation. No, you decide who you're going to marry, and so then when tough times happen, you decide to continue to grow in marriage, right? And that is a more solid foundation to build on, because love is driven and it grows within the power of decision. If it's driven by other factors, we're going to be tossed and turned by those ups and downs emotion. I think one big point to be made is this. One is looking to the Lord for whom to make not only a connection, but also a covenant. That sounds really super spiritual. It's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, I'm looking to you, Lord. I'm making this covenant. Now, I make a covenant before God, so it's a sacred thing. Because marriage is God's idea. God created marriage. By the way, United States government, you didn't create marriage. God did. Just saying. Side point. God made it, so therefore he designed what it looks like. And so he designed it. And so we get married. We're getting married with that divine honoring of this union that he created. But I don't find it healthy, the pattern that we cultivate of like, seek the Lord's person for you, because now we're leaving somebody to this nebulous kind of compass that they attribute to this is the Lord speaking, which in my work over the decades, people's Holy Spirit, what they attribute to God told me, we have some work to do, because it could be anything. And the Lord told me, and it becomes this thing that you can't really argue with, because by goodness, God's stamp is on this. And so many of you that are familiar with my work know that I'm calling the church to go, let's loosen that up a little bit in the sense of what we attribute to what God is saying. The Lord told me this. I'm just waiting on the Lord for this person to come to me. I'm always waiting on God to bring me the right person. All of that is packaged perfectionism that gets hidden over. It sounds good. It sounds impressive. And I am watching people that have been in that, and they are in their latter years of life, and they're still waiting. And so we've done a lot of things. I'm waiting on the Lord. And I used to push back on that a lot and have some fun with it. Remember that old song? They that wait upon the Lord. And I would sing it as slow as I possibly could. Shall renew their strength. Get a lot of that vibrato in. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. Right?
The fact that you know those words.
Say that again.
I said the fact that you have those, the words that you remember, the songs, is crazy.
Well, the songs actually help me too, because a lot of songs during those days were done to scripture, so it actually helps me remember scriptures because we remember stuff. It's hard for us to memorize things, but when there's a song or a jingle put to it, so they shall walk. I'm like, I do a lot of like, what are you waiting for? Make a decision. Make a decision. So I push back with this book. I push back on putting this on God, and instead, no, this is a decision we make, and God has given us liberty. Liberty, I was talking to my kids the other day. It got a little too deep, so I had to like bring it back a little bit. But I was talking about how the word liberty is such a powerful word, and it's used both Old and New Testament. In fact, James even talks about the law of liberty, the beauty that you have to make a decision. You have the ability to choose, and there's something so, and I know it's mysterious because we're like, God's in control, but he's not controlling. God's sovereign, but he's not like driving your decisions. He told Adam, go name the animals. And Adam was like, I'm waiting on the Lord for the name that he's going to give me to name this animal. He's like, name him. Name him. And so, we don't realize it's a decision we make. So then it gets down to the real issues that we're struggling with. We're afraid of failure. We're afraid to make the wrong decision. We looked at our parents' marriages and we're like, I don't want that. We see the divorce rates, which, by the way, the divorce rates are flawed. And I need to make a correction because I used it in a lot of my talks when I would talk about marriage or talk about the divorce rates. We were fed this distortion about divorce. Over half of every marriage is ending in divorce. Well, in research and looking at it, you're realizing the stats have been messed with, and the way they were accumulating that stat was actually inaccurate. And part of it was, in looking at years, they were looking at the number of marriages and the number of divorces. So if you have 1 million marriages in a year, I'm just throwing out a number, and you have 500,000 divorces that year, 50% divorce rate, right? No. It's not counting people that are already married and have been married. That's one factor. Then there's other factors in it that they didn't count for as far as coming up with that stat. So we threw that around. The statistic is actually up more. And you can do your own research if you want to. It's more in like maybe 70% of marriages actually stay intact. So anyway, that's a whole thing. There's all kinds of things that we get goofy about, but we get when you're anxious in this area, you get drawn to a lot of subjects that take you off track. So there's a lot of single people that are getting sucked into the red flags conversation, which is like, here are red flags that you need to watch out for. And the red flags are okay, right? They could be things but when you're very prone to anxious obsession and avoidance and perfectionism, you grab onto those rules, and it now feeds this avoidance and this nitpickiness and compulsivity. So, okay. So anyways, also, how do some of us grew up in crazy, not to be drawn to old, familiar crazy in others. It's impossible to do that without, like some of your brokenness is going to come into play. Who you're attracted to and how you go about that. Yeah, you're broken. You're not going to make a perfect decision because a lot of these questions in ROCD are just laced with perfectionism. I want to avoid any possible flaw. Like, no, there's certain things you're not going to be aware of for maybe 10 years from now. Oh, I made that decision kind of based out of this, and I didn't see it at the time, right? So in our brokenness, we want to, like Melissa and I were talking, we want to self-protect. And out of the self-protection, we got to create all these rules and all these things now we're looking out for. We're checking. What are we not doing? We're not actually just growing in relationship with the other person. We're checking and looking at our lists and comparing how we feel and analyzing all of these things. So the crazy, as you say, you're born with, we want to do everything we can to avoid that from having an impact in our life. And it's unrealistic. You're going to have some of it impact your friendships, the job you pick, And this is where, like, I want to release you guys of this tormenting fear of failure that is paralyzing us from making decisions. And so I think that, the thing Elijah said in the Old Testament was like, just, you go from this opinion to this opinion, like make a decision. Joshua said, choose you this day. Now I know that's in the context of who you will serve, but I also want to encourage you to utilize it in the sense of like, decide where you're going with your journey. Decide, make a decision, because we hyper analyze, we hyper overthink. When you make a decision, now you're actually learning what it means to grow in love and to let God take you on a journey of healing in that. So you wrote, one cannot have healthy friendships or relationships if they themselves aren't healthy. Okay, yes, I get that, but no one's like perfectly healthy. And you don't get healthy and then go into a relationship. This is a myth that people also believe. I need to be away by myself, work on myself. Got to work on myself. You work on mental health through practice. You work on OCD through practice in relationship. You work on ROCD actually in relationship. Especially ROCD has to get through that threshold of commitment where now it's like, okay, now we're dating or whatever you kind of label you want to put on it. Remember when we were younger, it was like, go steady.
Right.
It's like, what does that even mean? We're going steady. Oh, okay. Steady. It's just like, I was always like, what does that really mean? I have that kind of brain where I just kind of like, what does that really mean when we say these words or phrases? So then when do we know we're healthy enough? Do you hear it? Do you hear it? The perfectionism? You hear it in there? When am I perfect and healthy? When am I healthy enough to be in a relationship? And so therefore, when the relationship gets rough, people go, I need some time to myself to work on myself. And I'm going to sit in a room and I'm going to zone out and think I'm going to come up with the right thing. And then I'm going to go back into. And I actually think that is something that both the world and the church believe in and utilize to a dysfunctional pattern. The world kind of is like, oh, we're going to get into the Zen place. I'm just going to be good with myself and all those things. And that can make us just a lot more self-consumed. And the church will use it in this way. I'm going to go be with Jesus. I'm going to go be with him. And I'm just going to fall in love with him. And I'm just going to be with him. And that can also lend to a lot of goofy dysfunctional patterns because life is not you and Jesus. And I know many people will push back on that. We sang a song back in the 90s, All I Need Is You. And it's not even biblically accurate because God looked at Adam, who was alone, and said, this isn't good. So if you want to get biblical, it's just a thing that we create out of our brokenness. Because a lot of it is like, you know what? The world's crazy. They're goofy out there. It's just me and you, Lord. It's just me and you. You know what? That sounds really good. All I need is, hold on a second. Let me get that. All I need is you, Lord. And we meant well. I sang it, right? You're all I want. You're all I've ever needed. We sang that in youth group over and over again, right? I get it. I did it. So anything. But then over time, you start to learn, no, in the context of human relationship is where we actually learn how to practice the invisible God who shows himself visible amongst us in our interactions. So guess what? I'm learning how to work through my mental health through how I interact with you. Yes, you. We're not supposed to point fingers, so I won't point a finger too long. But you. And so to go back to what you asked me, what would I say to the church? I don't know that I have a lot of like negative things about what the church has taught. I think the church has tried to encourage marriage, stand for marriage, encourage people to get married and those kind of things. In my journey, I don't necessarily look back and go, oh, the church should have done this and done that. They just did. They didn't really understand some of these mental health things that go on. We weren't really honest about it because when I began to share my obsessiveness, my fears and stuff I was working through, people just came up and would pull me aside in the hallway. Mark, I have those battles too. I have that struggle. Can you talk to my kid? Can you help this? My husband, my wife, And it's more of that. that I think we've suppressed the subject of mental health, pushed it aside. Counselors will deal with it. And meanwhile, there's just so much agony and heartache going on amongst people that are struggling, that are really, really struggling. So you said about being healthy enough. And so what are things that we should be attracted to? And that's a whole subject in itself, of learning how to navigate your sense of attraction, learning to navigate your sense of sex drive. I think those factors are helpful. I don't know that I'm looking at the church to go, church, you need to do this. I think that should be built in the family. I'm not saying the church shouldn't talk about it. I'm fine talking about it. I think we should talk about it. But I also don't look at the church like some people look at the government, like we need the government to do these things. I look at a lot of things that need to be done in the home, in the family, that should be cultivated there. And I think in our homes, we need to talk about what it means to deal with attraction. What does that look like? Because attraction can go into a lot of places, and we live in a world that's like, just love is love, go with wherever attraction takes you, and who am I to judge? Like, okay, no, God has guidelines on where that should be channeled. Now, however, within that, as you're attracted to the opposite sex, and God's design for marriage is a man born as a man to a woman born as a woman. That's God's design, right? Within that context of attraction, right? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with your sex drive? How do you navigate self-control? How do you allow yourself to be filled with love and grow in love and practice love so it fills those places in your heart? Problem is that we grew up with such dysfunction. We grew up with lack of equipping and unconditional love. Fathers love to fill our hearts. We struggle with God. We struggle with nurture. So now this looking for somebody to be with is this magnified thing. So I don't know about you, but this is sometimes how I think of it. So many of us are like a like a pop love song. Do you listen to the lyrics in pop love songs? It's like this intense, this high, this you're everything I need, you're all I ever wanted, and you're satisfied. So now we're looking for that in that kind of way. Meanwhile, we have a history of emptiness and woundedness and brokenness that we're needing to practice one with another. But we're going to God, give me that perfect person that will solve all this ache in my heart. So there's a statement that I say when it comes to like marriage talks, where I will say, and I say the statement, just throw it out there to kind of get people thinking. Melissa doesn't make me happy. And you could take that. Oh, she doesn't make you happy. What's she doing? No, that's not what I'm talking about. She is not in charge of my happiness. Happiness is an inside job. I've got to learn to do that. But I got to learn to practice that in the context of marriage. And I'm not the one that makes her happy. She has to have that journey that she has, and we together both working on ourselves are. So that is more where I encourage. It's like in the context of relationship, you're working on yourself, the other person's working on yourself, and it's actively practicing. Otherwise, this like working on love is just theoretical. And I could preach on love when I was single. I could talk about marriage all the time and things out of the Bible. It sounded great. Till I get in it, then it gets real. Then the work is real. So if you're trying to avoid as much as possible the crazy you grew up with, you'll throw yourself into another ditch. Just be sober. Hey, I come from brokenness, and I'm working on it, and I'm aware, and I'm teachable. That I think is an important aspect to recognize. Also, what are things that we should be attracted to? I'm sorry if I've rambled or repeated or rephrased questions, but I'm seeking wisdom, clarity, and discernment. Thank you for all you do and for your input, as many of us treasure you and your family and ministry so much. I thank you for that. And one of the reasons I wanted to just kind of walk through this is, yes, the book's out, and I want to encourage the book tonight and encourage you to get it and get it for people that you find it would be helpful for. But I also see the cry in our younger generation that need voices of mentoring, that need voices of like stabilizing this stuff, because we have been taught patterns that are not exactly healthy. You know, there's a common thing in divorce where when they file the papers, they'll check off, what is it? What's the thing they file in divorce? What's the term? Irreconcilable differences, right? And there's like people are like, we just weren't compatible, right?
Or a conscious uncoupling.
I can't hear you.
Sorry. What do they say now in Hollywood? They do a conscious uncoupling or something.
That's a whole different thing.
They're so ridiculous.
Yes. It's but the compatibility, right? And so you could take 2 tests and compatible. And I'm not against that. I think it's helpful to learn, but it's also not a chart to go, oh, this thing matches on paper, so therefore everything should just work out. And now we're using like some external thing to tell us this is going to be okay. I think a lot of us are afraid of the future. We're afraid of things going wrong. We're afraid of fallout. We're afraid of something bad happening. So we do a lot of projecting into the future, and we're listening to the substance of things not hoped for. And I think my nightmare was I don't want to be in a miserable marriage, or I don't want to be in what I saw, or I don't want to make the wrong decision. And I had to walk through that fear of recognizing it's not about getting everything feeling just right. I had to face that fear. The cool thing, though, is when you face that fear over and over and over again, you start to see how small it is and how, in the perspective of life and journey, that what it was saying and screaming was actually not a megaphone. It was a lot like the Wizard of Oz, where you look over and there's a guy behind a curtain and he's this little guy and he's not that frightening at all. But it takes time and it takes practice. And a lot of it is recognizing, and I'll say this and then we'll take a break for some questions. There's a lot of distortions. So you're going to have to understand which way am I pointing? Oh, this way. That all these 7 distortions are influencing, and imagine all these influencing who you decide to marry. And they're all clocking at the same time. It's going to make someone highly anxious, highly doubting, feeding doubt, and delaying any decision of moving forward. And so this keeps us in a procrastination kind of state where we delay. And so we live in a world of very non-committal statuses. One of the first phases that people went to non-committal culturally was they just started living together. And that became a cultural thing. And when you watch movies and TV shows, it's just an assumed thing that they just live together, right? It's just this kind of thing that just started happening. And they say, oh, it's just a paper to sign. So, marriage is just a paper. So we're just going to, it was a form of like, I'm not going to make that official commitment. And now we're seeing just so much anxiousness and doubts, and we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to protect our brokenness by making the perfect decision. So this is a good book for those of you that are recognizing this pattern in your life and in your journey. And if you relate at all to anything I've shared in what I've been through, then I encourage you, get a copy of it. And do you have any questions or any comments in your land of the comment section, my love?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me go over to the super chats because we have a bunch things over here. Just blessings to us. Swagoo, thank you so much for your super chat.
Thank you.
Allison, why, thank you for your super chat.
Thank you.
Joshua Miller. Joshua, you're so kind every week. Love offering. Thanks, guys, for encouraging us to stay under the blood.
That's great.
Eve Star Full. Welcome to the Heart Healing Overcomer community.
That's awesome.
And then a question from Rockoju, who has been a Heart Healing Equipper for 9 months.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Okay. What is that noise? Did you hear that?
There's a lot of things I don't hear.
Oh, it was like, wee. It sounded like a little rat.
Maybe it was me breathing.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm coming off of strong medication, Accutane, which is, yes, the stuff they have you sign.
Is that skin stuff?
Yeah. And withdrawal, which spikes my OCD. Anytime I have spikes like this, I spin that it's going to be like my first onset of symptoms and last 2 years, like I'm traumatized. Any tips?
Yeah, be nurturing to yourself in the sense of like, hang on, it's all right. You're going through something.
What am I doing?
You got. you're right over there.
I'm okay. I was gonna get the water and then I. Yeah.
You whip that thing around like. You be nurturing to yourself in the sense of like, okay, I've had times where I saw side effects of medication I was dealing with that made me more prone to mood changes or all kinds of side effects. It is a frustrating part about medication. And I've done talks on that. My answer is not to address medication, but to address what you're talking about. To be kind, because getting off of a medication can be a roller coaster. And I have to remind people over and over and over again, especially depending on what it is. But if you're on any kind of medication for a long period of time, your body adjusts to that chemical state, right? So you could apply that to medication. You can even apply that to sugar. You could apply that to a lot of things, right? It gets used to a certain. So at first, the body's adjusting to it coming in. Then it's trying to adjust, and then it's acclimating to that. Then it's gone. So people that, like, for example, with benzodiazepines, they many times have a miserable time getting off of it. But it's not just that. SSRIs too, or even other medications for other things. And I don't think there's enough. Affirmation about that. I see too many experiences with doctors where they dismiss it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. It's in the package.
Read the insert.
Yes. Yeah.
They don't want you to, though.
Yeah. So anyways. So be kind to yourself. Like, hey, all right, I'm feeling just ride through it. Don't react to it. Don't, that's a simple answer. I don't know all the specifics of it, but that's.
Wait a second. I just got a good comment here. This is a good one. Hi, Mark. My pastor says we need to have 6 months intervention before we are allowed to be married. This does not sit right with me.
I don't even know what that means.
What do you mean? 6 months? Honey, 6 months.
6 months intervention. What does that mean?
Intervention. What is an intervention? Counseling? 6 months of counseling?
No, that's, yeah.
Maybe? I don't know.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm not saying when you make a decision, just get married tomorrow. I'm saying make these decisions in sequence. So you're friends, and then you're interested, go on a date. Let's go on a date again. And then you start seeing each other more. And then you commit. We're in a dating relationship. Then eventually at some point moves towards engagement. There's stages to this, right? And take the stages. And part of it, they recommend pastoral counseling. Now, do you know what my recommendation is for pastoral counseling? I think that you should be committed to doing more counseling after you're married than pre.
Yes.
That would be, to the question earlier, that would be a piece of feedback I would give to the church. Is we sit down and go, okay, we want to get married? All right, we're going to commit to 6 months of counseling and a year of post-marriage, once you're in marriage, counseling. Now we're actually doing the work because now you're in it, right? It's like, you could talk about some kind of thing that you're wanting to learn. Eventually, you got to do it.
Sonia said, with both pastors counseling every weekend. Honey, that's a lot. That's controlling. That sounds controlling. Just saying.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this question too? Where to go? Could you go a little deeper if you haven't already? I just want you to, because I know you want to do a teaching, bigger teaching on this. Could you go a little deeper if you haven't already when it comes to sexual passion as a single person?
Like how to deal with it? I think that, well, I have talked about this at length in my sex Q&As. So I think there's 2 of them or 3 of them that are there. I may do another one, like I said. And I think that there's a lot of backdrop to it. But I think to cut to the chase, I think when somebody is like battling, let's say they have sexual urges, okay, and they want to be with somebody, but they're single. I would want to know, how much energy are you taking to be connected in relationship, right? Where you're practicing friendships, interactions, involved in a cause, involved in something where you're giving out to people. And I think I see a lot of that not being there produces a lot of loneliness. So now we become more prone to taking that sexual urge in the wrong places. The most common place is pornography. that people go to. And what are we taking there? People are taking to that their emptiness, their relational emptiness there. And if you're going there with it, marriage never solves that, never heals it. I'll say that again. If you're single and you're going to pornography to fill that, marriage never heals it. So it will continue because you're creating a lust feedback loop.
Yep.
That is going to train dopamine to keep you searching for that, because it keeps you So become a student of love. And for me, what helped me a whole lot, single moving into marriage, was the work I did on the rejection mindset.
Yep.
Of really working on, if you have like a sex drive that's like, super intense or off the charts, you struggle with lust, of recognizing that wound that drives it, because all lust gets driven out of those places because it's the counterfeit of love. So depending on what the specifics are to it, wherever, how when I talk about fear, wherever fear is going, you're showing an area that needs to be loved, right? And so lust is the same thing. Where it's going, it's showing you where you're needing to be rooted in love. And as a single person, you get a lot of messages too that there's something wrong with you. You're single, you want to be married, and there's like something wrong with you because you're not married. Don't allow that narrative to become your interpreter.
I think too, maybe people who are single in the chat can comment. I feel like it's probably a lot more difficult nowadays in dating. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. I don't know. It just doesn't seem that easy, because how do you meet people?
Yep.
I don't know.
I agree.
Maybe I'm just out of the loop.
Yep. I agree.
Do people go online? I don't know how you meet people and you feel safe. And I don't.
You could make the argument the other way, because you and I met in church.
We did.
And it was just before the onset of online dating, which just started to
when you and I, right before you and I started dating, I think, was it Christian Mingle or one of those I went on? And I went on a date. Oh, it was, But listen, some people find the love of their life.
Yeah.
Okay. They do. It's great. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like.
So you can make the argument that we didn't have as many of those social tools where you could know of somebody that's on the other side of the country that you might want to get to know.
Yeah.
It was
I think it was just starting to get.
It was just it was in your sphere of people.
Yeah.
So I remember, for example, as a as a teenager in our church, we had this youth pastor came in. He's a handsome fellow. He's a good looking dude. Had like a volleyball looking, like tall, just good looking.
Did he have a mullet?
Yes, he did. Good looking guy. And I'm standing there in church or in youth group, we're singing songs, looking around, and like, there's a lot of like older, like in, I'm a kid. So older ladies like
are now coming to church,
are now coming to youth group. And now they're youth.
Oh, wow.
And now
they're like, I want to be a youth worker. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So we kind of chuckled. Mm-hmm. We're like, it's all happening.
Well, because the pickings are slim.
Well,
ladies are like, I got to put myself out there. Let me get myself done up and put myself out there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't. Looking back on that memory, I don't hate on that. They're just like, let's see what's here.
They're like, look at me. Hi, pick me, pick me.
Yes.
Now they literally call that a pick me.
Yes. It's understandable. Okay, so back then, that's the I'm kind of bringing the other standpoint of the argument. They could say it was even harder then because those were your options. Like you got to go, and if you're a Christian,
20 women vying for one man. Yeah,
there were like grandmothers. Like, here's my daughter, Mark. Would you like to get to know her? Oh, that was rough.
I got a lot of evil eyes when you and I started dating.
You did.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
You did. It's like.
Yeah, wasn't there one mom that said her daughter had a prophecy that she was going to marry you?
Yeah,
so
lot
I don't know how we
prophecies.
feel about that, but
A lot of prophecies.
A lot of prophecies.
Any other questions? Because I do have an ROCD. I guess I'm doing a lot of ROCD tonight.
Oh, okay. No, go ahead. I was just reading some stuff in the chat. But yeah, people are saying that it definitely is more difficult nowadays to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's more difficult wherever you're living in your time frame.
I will say this too. The Scotian lady says The comments under this video exhibit how hard it is to be a single Christian and how churches fail to include these types in church life. Yeah.
Yeah. And I understand people saying that. The church, I do think though, there's sometimes where the church almost, no matter which way you go, it's like you're doing something wrong because they're trying to build families. So they're encouraging, because families are the foundation. So then they're single people, they're encouraging single people to get involved. Right. So it's like, that's kind of the best option. I will say that is how I met my wife, by just being involved in the church. And that's how I met you.
Yeah.
So I hear what they're saying, but I also get a sense, be aware of the shame factor too. Because this married people, when they talk to single people, what's the thing that they do when married people talk to single people?
What do you mean? I don't know.
When a married person talks to a single person, what is the thing they bring up?
Oh, that they have somebody they could hook them up with?
Yes, that's one. Or, hey, you got anybody in your life? We've even done that. We were talking to,
I've done that. I have done that to people.
Yes.
And then when they get married, so you going to have a baby soon?
Right. Okay. So did you find anybody yet?
Yeah.
As a married person, do you mean that bad?
No.
You mean it in a good way.
Yes.
When you're single, and if you're feeling insecure about that, how are you going to take it? In a bad way.
In a bad way. Feel bad.
You're looking at me like I'm asking trick questions.
No, I'm sorry. Miss B. No, Miss B had a great comment and I wanted to read it and she erased it. Anyways, go ahead. So I was thinking. Go ahead.
So this is the dilemma.
I get distracted sometimes. Sorry.
I get it. So, but this is the dilemma.
You're right. We don't mean it in a bad way. We're trying to encourage people, get married, find somebody. Oh, maybe I know somebody. We're trying to help. We're trying to help.
So this creates the dilemma where singles goes, the church is making us feel bad for our singleness. And it's a loop. It's a loop where they're meaning like, hey, when you going to get married?
Right.
They're trying to be kind about it.
True.
And then if you don't say anything, they're like, they're not encouraging marriage in my journey. Right. It's just like, because I've been in both worlds.
Right. And then you get into the singles group and everybody's 50 and over.
Right.
That's back to our original.
This gets back to my premise of the rejection mindset, because it infects our interpreter. And there were times in my journey where I felt like my singleness was a liability. Because when I would go to events, you want to talk about like people saying, in the church, I'd be a single guy at pastors' conventions. Everyone's married.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there at dinner. Everyone's with there. And I'm like, you want to talk about like having to.
Odd man out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to go? I'm like, hey, can I?
Then I'm sure everybody's like, hey, I have a nice girl for you. Hey, and you're like,
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in one sense, single people, I get it, because you're dodging arrows, right? But also there is an inside job of like not allowing that narrative to be an interpretation, because it's like, yeah. And so now I'm on the married side talking to single people going, hey, so what's going on here? And I mean it, and I mean it well, Right. And they're like, I feel terrible because I don't have somebody in my life, right? So anyway.
True. Let me just ask you this one more thing. I just want to answer it for this lady, Abril. Does ROCD cause a feeling of thinking others are attractive, and because you thought that, you might find those others attractive, you don't love your partner?
Yes.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
It's a big part of it. It actually...
We've talked about this.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. She said my swear word. No.
Who?
Not that one. Hold on. Where's the...
The church lady?
Where's the... I didn't get it. I didn't get it set up. Where is my?
No.
I think it's. Hold on. I think it's this one. Partner. That's my. Although I should probably just use the bleep. Make it right. Let's make it an official swear of my channel. So when I was with my, then we.
Oh, the part. Yes.
It just, okay.
Oh my gosh. Yes, sorry.
It took a minute to click.
You're right. It took a second. I'm like, what is he talking about? Yes. The fact that you're right. It is a swear word. We don't like it. It's boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife.
Fiance
is appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It shows healthy stages. Partners.
You're right. Sorry.
Partners. This nebulous word, and it has a lot of connotations that used in.
Yeah. Because sometimes people, especially nowadays, with when people send us questions, women have male names. Like you don't know, and we're like, what are they talking about?
That's true.
You need to be clear.
That's true.
Say my wife.
Yeah.
So and so.
Yes. Yes. Instead of her.
Oh goodness. It's good stuff.
YouTube is going to be like, what is going on in this broadcast?
Those Christians over there. Right.
The algorithm can't seem to understand what is happening here.
The church lady does not like that word either. Somebody asked if the church lady was going to show up today.
Well, I got some things I'm going to respond in this question. How's that?
Let's get into this one. Speaking of prophecies, I have some things I want to respond to in this. And like I said, I'll do another live on ROCD. But hi, Mark. First of all, thank you for your work. It's blessed me. And I am currently working through the most spiritually, mentally, emotionally confusing time I've ever been in. I will try to make this as short as possible. I have OCD and been in a relationship with a godly man for around a year. A little background on him. He grew up a PK in a Pentecostal church and has been having people speak prophecies and words over him since he was born, basically.
Whoa.
Yep. So already he's set up with too much pressure. We're going to have problems. We're going to have problems because there's this sense of he's got a mantle that he's carrying for the next generation. There's a call on his life. And
he's going to the nations, everybody.
It's perfectionistic pressure starting right off. Pastors' kids need to be kids, and they already have a hard time just being kids. And now all this word that's on him and prophecies. He grew up in a very fear-based teaching and view of God. He also suffered from some significant father wounds from his dad's ministry work. He also has struggled with a history of scrupulosity, excessive fasting, waiting on God to speak to him, struggling with what God's will was for him to wear that day. Yes, that is religious OCD scrupulosity. But he says he has been delivered from that. Okay. Did he snap his fingers and all of a sudden his perfectionistic tendencies and his anxieties and his relationship with doubt and uncertainty and all his ups and downs emotions and all the ways that he deals with his doubts have now been miraculously removed from his life? He hyperfixates on God's will and has believed from a young age he's been called to music ministry. And so here's all the like, God is calling me. God is doing these things. God, it's this ominous setup to create this perfectionistic world that is going to lead to a domino of issues. He's very gifted in it and anointed for it and serves as a worship pastor. But he obsesses about his future spouse being a good fit for this ministry work. Yeah, he's under too much pressure. This God thing, a mantle, and I'm called, and I got to do this thing, and I'm like Isaiah, and I'm, or whatever, wherever it goes. And then here's the equation. I have the calling, so I need to marry a woman who's going to make sure she fits into the calling. Parentheses, she has to acclimate to how much time I'm going to be spending at ministry, which is probably what his dad did because he carries father wounds from his dad. His dad probably was excessively working at church, wasn't at home a lot because he was following God. And that is a pattern that needs to be recalibrated. Our first ministry is our marriage and our children. That's our first ministry. And we've not been taught that. We've not been rooted in that. So you serve the church or the ministry. This is God. I'm doing this for him, and God's first. See that how that all got laced into. So that's being passed down to him. Instead of, hey, I love music. I'm good at it. And I love to serve the church and worship. It's just, I got this calling, I got this thing, and it's heavy, and I got to marry the person that's going to that's going to fit into that kind of system. And I push back a lot on that. I have done nothing but support him over time. We've known each other. And as a worship leader myself, I've led worship with him and gone on ministry trips with him several times. We first dated for 3 months, and then he abruptly ended it with me because he was confused about whether it was God's will. Yeah, he needs the book. It's classic ROCD. We loved each other, enjoyed being together, were super attracted to each other, etc. And our relationship was very healthy and godly. But he has prophecies and dreams about his future wife that I do not exactly fit, and was very anxious and unsettled about the relationship. Well, if I jumped into his prophecies and into his dreams and got a picture of this woman, most likely, it's a high probability, no woman on the planet would actually fit it perfectly.
Oh, but I think I would. I've got an anointing on my life. You want to talk about being blessed and having a calling? I got it. I will come alongside of you, but you're gonna have to understand, Mr. Worship Leader, that when you fall out of line, this woman ain't gonna just cleave to that nonsense. I'm gonna set you straight. I'm gonna tell you what's going on. You're gonna have a union with a holy sandal, if you understand what I'm saying. If those ladies give those googly oogly eyes because they feel called to sing on the worship team with you with ulterior motives, then I, as your one flesh, will be bringing a prophetic word from the Holy Spirit to set you straight. Amen. Praise the Lord.
And scene. So I don't know where I am. Okay, he's unsettled about the relationship. Yeah, he's got. When you read to me his bio just at the beginning, this is a perfectionistic OCDer right there. You can just see it. When you learn these distortions, you can see him a mile away. And we're just good in the church of slapping a God label on it. And that gives us the ability to hide the distortions. Okay, so anyways, he was very anxious, unsettled about the relationship, dreams, prophecies, all that, and he ended things. It's always like a God thing instead of I'm scared. I never thought I'd talk to him again, but he reached out to me 3 months later saying God had given him clarity.
Ooh, now we're talking here. You got the clarity. I'm clear now. I'm clear.
So what he got, and I know I'm making jokes and stuff like this, but we gotta lighten up, but there's stuff here. When the OCDer breaks up, there's a feeling of relief that comes in, and then you eventually start missing the person. So then they come back around and they start talking again. So that's what's happening here. He's in the OCD loop that is taking place. He reached out 3 months later saying God had given him clarity, and he spent months seeking counsel and mentorship. So what does that look like? I like this girl. She's in the church. She's on the worship team. Give me counsel. Okay. So why don't you get to know? No, give me counsel. Give me counsel right now. Counsel should be, okay, what are you doing? Where are you going with this? That should be the counsel to this young man. Are you taking a step? Don't be wishy-washy. Be clear with your intents and where you want to go, and face your fears. That's the counsel. It's a quick counseling session, actually. By the way, it's like, wow, it's 5 minutes. This is great. And mentorship, and felt like God was allowing him to pursue me again. Okay, here's the God allow, wow. God forbidding, God giving me peace, God's giving me peace. This is a bit of spiritual bull. Okay, so, and I didn't say partner. I didn't say that word. Is what we do. I'm calling this out because we have to just be honest about what we're dealing with. I'm afraid, but we have this like God. So OCDers, when they feel good, they're like, oh, this must be, things are good with God. This must be good. When we feel anxious or doubting or confused or not in a good mood, we attribute that to God. So God starts to be this. It's like this, the remember the merry-go-round where the horse You had the horse that was just like, right? That one wasn't fun. It was funner to be on the one that was like, dun, 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 dun. You know? I remember taking Max on that, and he'd like that because he liked horses. And then he go, no. And this is what it's like in this. And this was Mark DeJesus in his early 20s. Right? But I'm telling you this, and I'm being animated about this to break down what you're dealing with and what many people are dealing with as well. Now, we would think that guys are the ones that got this the most, because we think of men as being commitment phobic more often. Oh, he's just afraid to commit. I would slice the pie right in half of pizza in the sense of I see it 50-50. In fact, I see a lot of females that have the same battles. So anyway, I prayed and sought counsel. After a month and a half of that, I got back together with him. About a month into us being back together, he started getting repetitive dreams about surrender and letting go, which made him very afraid. So he's having intrusive thoughts. But in his language of church life and following God, I had dreams.
Can we stop with that?
Yes.
Like he's not having, no one dreams about surrender.
Surrender and letting go.
Mark.
Yes. He's having intrusive thoughts.
That's
he's having
what
fears.
it is. And he's
having
saying,
doubts.
I had a vision.
Correct.
I had a dream. We need to have a recovery group for people that have been part of this.
Yes.
I'm being serious.
Yep.
We're making people ill.
Yes.
I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Keep your prophecy. I don't want to hear it. We are making people not well.
Yes.
This is not good.
So.
Anyway.
All right.
Let me refrain.
You're good. You're good. So the surrender and letting go is classic obsessive-compulsive behavior. So he's one of those that what he wants, God doesn't want, and he spins about God's will, and it's this thing you're trying to, is it God's will? And I think, I know I'm deep into this, but isn't this the one where he said that he would even check for what to wear that day, you know? So he's got OCD is in his whole view. Okay, he's very afraid. He has also had Bible verses repetitively comes up, which makes him fear it's not God's will, which is a common OCD thing. You have a verse, and oh yeah, but it says, "What shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?" I say to him, "I never knew you. Depart from me." All kinds of things like that used, kind of pull it right outside of context, but it just creates fear. It's not God's will for us to be together. We were wrong in getting back together. He's very confused because all the people in his life, including his pastor, father, other pastor relatives, love me and approve our relationship, which is often very common. And I wrote that in the book, that a lot of times people that I sit down with or ask questions, they're like, our friends don't know what to do because they're like, you're fine. What's going on? Okay. So that's what he needs. He needs OCD help, but I'm not sure if he'll be open to that. But these surrender and let go dreams keep coming up and have been for months. He will get random people tell him things he perceives as warnings. So he's also superstitious, just so you know. Like, oh, this happened. Somebody gave me a word. Ooh, it means God, he's giving me this warning. Beware when you're looking and checking for signs and you treat God as like you take a step, you go, and then all of a sudden God's like, don't go. And you're like, okay, don't, but what should I? And now you're following this ever-changing emotional pull back and forth, because that pattern leads to all kinds of further mental health battlegrounds. I'm not saying that to scare people. I'm saying that to sober people, because the same kind of like hearing from God, in my experience, has caused people to like pack their bags, leave their marriage, and go to another country because the Lord told her to. Or I've known people who have an affair with somebody else because the Lord told me to. Yes, the Lord told her to. Okay, so anyway, my wife's verifying this. So I push back on that. Like we need more concrete stuff, because here's what happens. If I say God is telling me this, here's what I am avoiding. I'm avoiding my own emotional life. I'm afraid, and this is what's happening in my emotions. This deferring to God makes us like puppets, and it causes us to avoid our own emotions and working through emotional maturity. This is my frustration too with people that are, and I'll talk about this in a broadcast about some inner healing modalities where we're trying to figure out what is God saying about our emotion and our pain. When we're doing that, we mean well because we're trying to get answers, but there can be an avoidance of our own emotional life. What's the Lord saying? What's going on in you? I'm not driving man-centeredness. That's not where don't take it that way. That's not what I'm talking about. Well, this is what I feel and I need to make God around what I feel. No. That's what I'm saying. But emotional maturity, you have to recognize how your thoughts are affecting you, how your emotions affect you, and learn to grow. We're not teaching people the discernment on how to relate to fear and guilt and confusion and double-mindedness. We're just like searching for this nebulous thing, labeling it God, telling other people. And then they're like, yeah. And then over time, people are like, oh, I don't know. So that his upbringing too didn't help in the sense of like, you got to follow the call of God. What is God saying? What is God saying? I don't think he probably has had good teaching and equipping on, so you're afraid. What's the fear telling you? What have you been doing in response to this fear? Are you in avoidance? Are you trying to, what are you trying to do disciple? Are we discipling people in that? No, we go, what's the Lord telling you? So I see how we're avoiding. Does that make sense? We're avoiding working on ourselves by just labeling out on God. He said it and I'm just doing it. So that puts you back into slavery. You're a slave with God. He tells you move left, you move left. He tells you buy that cheeseburger. He tells you wear these clothes. He tells you marry this person, and he's not going to do that. But we attribute that to him. So now we're puppet masters serving the puppet, and we attribute it back to him. So what happens when you get married and now you have marriage troubles, right? Which every marriage has to work through stuff and grow through stuff, right? And maybe we're not communicating that enough. It's like, okay, well, God was wrong, or what? Now you're in further confusion because you're like, what did I, because we put the God label on it. These surrender and let go dreams keep coming. He will get random people telling me warnings, but now we're stuck. We've been together for about a year. I've known about these dreams and Bible verses and other things he's been getting for 8 months now, and it makes my OCD wild. And so you have OCD issues as well too. Okay, so my OCD fixates on the fear that he will break up with me again. It's so sad because we want to be together, love each other, and our relationship is healthy and peaceful. I don't know that it's healthy by what you're sharing with me here. No condemnation in it, but let's just pull back on that as a label descriptive. But he says he cannot move forward in engagement marriage while feeling this unsettledness in his spirit about what to do. And he's afraid. And the fear is keeping him in passivity. So my encouragement to you is to not wait on him to finally feel settled, because as Stephen Curtis Chapman sang in the 80s, you might be waiting for lightning, a sign that it's time for change. I love Stephen Curtis Chapman, by the way.
He's the best.
You're listening for thunder while he's quietly whispering your name. Anyways.
He hasn't aged either. He's the cutest, oh my God.
He hasn't. I've shown him some of your resources, but I'm not sure what to do. You got to tell him that he needs to make a decision where to go. You guys have been together long enough. You've worked together in worship ministry. You've seen each other. You've known each other. Everybody knows. They're like, this is great. And he's waiting on the Lord. He's in fear. He's got to face his fear. And he takes a step forward. I'm just giving a heads up. When he takes a step forward in the relationship, his fear is going to go up. It's not going to go down. It temporarily goes up, because that's what happens when we face our obsessions. It goes up. And then we go, oh, I made the wrong decision. I got to get out. No, you've got to now dig your feet firmer into the soil and learn how to no longer serve fear as your master, because he's serving fear, but he has it cloaked with spiritual terms. So I've been in limbo for months. You don't have to be in limbo, by the way. Ladies, you don't have to be in limbo. If you're in a relationship and a guy is spinning and spinning and spinning, you don't have to wait. And I tell the story in my book about Melissa, my lovely bride, looking at me and interrupting my spiritual concoction that I had put together. I say, hey, listen, are we gonna do this and move forward, or are you just gonna flirt with me all the time?
I called you to decision, sir. Amen.
I'm giving you applause. Ladies and gentlemen.
That's a strong woman that knows what she wants. I'm going to tell you that right there.
So anyway, I feel like God has said nothing to me about a yes or a no. Another distortion. Because God, are you saying yes or no? You can get anything. We've got to be more grounded in how we're making decisions versus living as slaves, because this is slavery thinking. God, just tell me what to do. God has not called us to be slaves. We're sons. So you get to participate in the journey. You're participating with the Father. You are not just an amoeba that goes around and you're just being, you're not a piece of data that's just being inputted into a computer. You're a human being with the ability, with the gospel of liberty, to make a decision, to live and move and have your being. I feel like God is doing nothing to me about a yes or a no, despite praying multiple times a day about it every day. So you're asking me, and you're asking my pastoral feedback. Stop praying for the yes or no. Yep. And you have a conversation with them and say, make a decision. Are we moving forward or not? You going to face it and move forward, or we're not? I'm going to have to move in other directions, because I am not going to give you feedback to just make you wait around, call it waiting on the Lord, while we just kind of tap dance around his fears.
Yeah, because no prophetic word, even if a prophetic word came and said, she's the one, there'll be another one behind that. There'll be, unless this is confronted.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
There's a lot of prophetic word chasing, because we're looking for something outside of us to like relieve us, to just tell us what to do. How many of you in the feed, maybe this is your word. I could cloak it like that. This is a word for you, everyone in this stream. But maybe there's a bunch of us that this is the application. This is the thus saith the Lord, is make a decision, step forward in it, that you're trying to get this outside confirmation to just relieve you of something. And it's work moving through these mental health battlegrounds. It's work, folks. It really is. Okay. Pray multiple times a day. I know obsessive prayer is not good. And any insights? I feel really stuck and really don't know how to get through this. You do. I've given you feedback. You can actually do this, but you're going to have to tell him he needs to make a decision. I've never heard of anything like this, and it's really shaken me spiritually. We both don't theologically believe in the one, but is God trying to tell us to not be together? This doesn't align with what I believe about choosing a spouse as outlined by Paul's teaching and every other scripture about marriage. Thank you. So I took some time to walk through that.
Yes.
My love,
I need to read Miss B.
Miss B.
I love her comment. I got to go to it.
Yeah.
It's the best. And she even put a super chat in.
Right on.
She said, Melissa, I know the battle of being single, unless you're willing to marry the FedEx guy, but then the Amazon orders are going to get quite costly.
Some of those FedEx guys are nice guys.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. I always feel like I'm like, thank you so much for delivering. Thank you.
I watched a short, and I was showing it to you the other day. It was a compilation of all delivery people and like dogs coming out of the house, or
of the stuff they deal with.
There was a guy walking up, and out of the bush, a giant like elk jumped out and went across.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. You talk about being startled. Then there was a guy who they kept slipping on ice.
And the guy smashed his face.
And he slipped, and then he delivered, and he thought he got it, and went and slipped again. Then there was one guy, bless his heart. He was like, he slipped. He's like, Lord, he's just laying there with his feet out because all the Ring cameras are catching. Lord, I don't know. Today's one of those days.
I love it.
The predominant thing
was
the legs on these guys. a dog would come, they would come and jump the fence. like not even try to undo the gate, just jump it, like high jump it. And people in the, because you like reading,
Yes,
you like reading
the
the
comment
comments.
section. You and I will send each other stuff and go, please go to the comments immediately.
Yes.
Some people are so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, like just eye-tailing and jumping. Then one was a dog was chasing him, and he's trying to beat the dog with the package. He fell on the floor, and he's like trying to hit the dog. And most of the time, the dog's just more barking. It's not actually biting.
Right, the dog.
But
right.
you think,
But nowadays, you just don't know. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So, anyways,
Anyway, all right, hold on, Boo. This is from Raves.
all right.
Okay. Hi, Mark. I wanted to ask for advice with difficulties in dealing with sin. Lately, I've been having difficulty resisting laziness, procrastination, and gluttony. I also suffer from OCD and apparently ADHD.
A lot of times, I encourage, if I'm talking with somebody about this, I want to just find what's the next step. What's the
First
next?
of all, who
what's
doesn't procrastinate? Okay.
That's true.
We all struggle with
Yeah,
that.
because procrastination is in a fear of failure. I deal with procrastination every day. I deal with not being motivated in certain areas every day, and I
You know what though? You're good. It's more me. Let's be honest.
well, no, it's
You can, but you're a good rallier. You
Okay.
rally really well.
Okay. What you're seeing is the outward activity. What you're not seeing is the internal mechanisms and the things I have to work through to get to
The
that.
hoops in your
Yes.
mind and your physical body that
Yes.
you've had to jump through.
And the
Yes.
conversations I have to have with myself on a daily basis to go, all right, Mark. So I think that like a lot of times we need some encouragement to just take the next
Yeah.
step. It's not the overwhelming thing. It's not the big thing. It's just the next thing that we're avoiding, that we don't want to do. You know, it's like applying for that job or just going to meet people, being in a social setting and or just the next project that we're doing. We're afraid of failure. And that's what drives procrastination. And then you combine it, the attention issues, which is it's a big factor in today's society, right? Right? Growing up in complex trauma and things that people have had and the ADHD struggles that they
Like,
have.
don't talk to me if I'm playing a game on my phone.
Yeah, and and do you know that they're researching why is it that when you get into a video game, motivation kicks in, but then when it comes
Let
to
me
something
tell you
else,
something. I found a new game called Triple Match City. I'm obsessed. And you have to like really, because you only have so much time to try to find all the things that you have to find. I love these little searching games, and Mark will come. Anyways, my point is that you always have something serious that you want to tell me too. And you'll just start talking and I'm like,
right.
oh, and you're like, you have no idea what
Yeah.
I just said. I'm like, and then I get upset. I'm like, no, I did hear you.
Yeah.
And then I do the very, very childish thing of like repeating back to him the last sentence to prove.
Yes.
Yeah. And then then I'll ask you like either the next day or something like, hey, are you gonna da da da? You're like, Missy, I already talked to you about that.
I had a whole conversation with you. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's you have this amazing ability when it comes into some of these games, though. You're really good.
Well, listen, I had to accomplish something in life.
I can tell I've been married to you long enough to know when the fully is not there. Is not there. Fully present.
Fully present is not happening.
Yeah.
Half present.
And this
somewhat present.
And this is challenging because I'm talking to you, but you also have 138 people talking to you.
Yes, this is distracting. At some point, we're going to probably have to have other moderators.
We
because,
will. Very soon. Very soon. Yeah, we will.
Soon and very soon.
We will. But it's challenging to be able to do that. See, like I have the chat way over here.
Yeah.
If I was looking at that, talking to you, I would.
Yes, and I love interacting with people, and I love when stuff is funny, and I love good comments. So I get distracted. I just do.
I heard distracted. I didn't hear anything else.
Oh my goodness.
All right, folks.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of things today.
Do me a favor, get a copy of this book. It does help me, and I'm not encouraging you to speed read through this, but if it helps, because I always tell people marinate on my books, read them slowly. But if it's a blessing, please write a review. That helps a whole lot. It helps the algorithm. It helps us as authors. It does a whole lot. So please do me a favor, write a review, and keep an eye out for this week. Those of you audiobook listeners, because I know there's many of you out there that like to listen to me while you're driving, biking, working out, gardening, cooking, many other things. The audiobook will be out soon, and it is read to by yours truly. So look forward to that. Please like and subscribe. That helps us out a whole lot. You could support these by going to markdejesus.com, clicking on the donate button. And we're just glad to be an encouragement to your journey. Of course, the big picture journey of working through OCD is the OCD healing journey. Thank you so much, everyone, for supporting the book material and even encouraging words you've had on this latest book. It's meant a whole lot. And that's about it for today, I think.
I got to go grill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm hungry. So, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. This is your brother from another mother.
And your sister from another mister.
Saying we'll be back with more insights for your healing and freedom journey. In the meantime,
Are we out?